Yo, what's up, free folk? It's your friendly mouth breather Kevy here. Did you know that Valerian the Black Dread was the biggest of all the known dragons? Of course you did. But who is the second biggest? Most people say Vhagar. Tyrion disagrees. In this video, we're going to review everything we know about Valerian's two closest peers, Vhagar and Meraxes. Which one was actually bigger? First, let's review some common misconceptions. These dragons did not just fly over from Essos and burn people in Westeros. 100 years before Aegon the Conqueror was born, his great-great-great-grandmother had a prophetic dream about the doom of Valyria. So her and her father fled to Dragonstone, a Targaryen outpost that the family had already founded 200 years before that. So just like Daenerys, Aegon was born on Dragonstone, and so were Vhagar and Meraxes. Valerian is the only dragon of the three that was born back in Valyria. Valerian was born around 126 years before Aegon's conquest, and since Valerian died of old age at 94 AC, he clocks in at 220 years old. He was a beast. But so were Meraxes and Vhagar. They hatched many decades before Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys were even born, let alone conquered Westeros. So all three of the dragons were huge and formidable at the time of conquest. At that time, Valerian was the biggest, then Meraxes, then Vhagar. Vhagar died during the Dance of the Dragons in 130 AC at 181 years old. And since there's no year zero, tricky, that means Vhagar was born in the year 52 BC. There are various theories as to what impacts a dragon's growth rate, but I made another video on that, so I won't bore you with the details here. And more than likely, it's a function of several variables, but it's safe to assume that most of these factors were the same for Vhagar and Meraxes, at least for the time they were alive together before bonding to the Targaryens. One big difference between the three is that Rhaenys loved riding Meraxes, and she's said to have ridden Meraxes more than Aegon and Visenya rode Valerian and Vhagar combined. But that's post-conquest. At the time of the conquest, Meraxes was bigger than Vhagar, most likely because he or she was older than our girl Vhagar. Meraxes was born during the Century of Blood, which started in 114 BC. If you didn't know, that's the year of the Doom of Valyria. Vhagar was born in 52 BC, so Meraxes was anywhere up to 62 years older than Vhagar, which explains why he or she was bigger than Vhagar during the conquest. However, Meraxes died 10 years after the conquest, making him or her at most 124 years old, whereas Vhagar lived a long time. Vhagar died at 181. So, everything else being equal, Vhagar should have eventually surpassed Meraxes. Vhagar should have become the second biggest dragon. And most fans think she was. So why the heck are you making this video, Kev? Because in Book 1 of Game of Thrones, Tyrion thinks, quote, "You could have ridden a horse down Vhagar's gullet, although you would not have ridden out again. Meraxes was even bigger, and the greatest of them, Valerian." Wait, what? I thought Vhagar was the second biggest. What are you talking about, Tyrion? Tyrion is known to be very fond of dragons. He's loved them ever since he was a little kid. This is one of the reasons HBO gave us that scene in Meereen where Tyrion unchained Rhaegal and Viserion.
Dragons are intelligent. More intelligent than men, according to some maesters. They have affection for their friends and fury for their enemies. I am their friend.
Do they know that?
And Tyrion's really smart, right?
I drink and I know things.
So can we trust him? No, we cannot. The series of Song of Ice and Fire has many unreliable narrators. Of course people lie, but beyond that, they just misremember things, or they base their opinions on stuff that they've read, but that stuff is not always accurate. Sometimes books and songs are intentionally inaccurate so as to gain favor at a lord's table, or to cover up conspiracies. Most of you know of the Unkiss by now. In case you don't, check this out. In the books, Sansa incorrectly remembers the Hound kissing her before he fled King's Landing after the Battle of Blackwater. But per George R. R. Martin offline, this did not happen. The Hound, Sandor Clegane, did not kiss Sansa, despite how badly she subconsciously wishes it happened. Sansa is an unreliable narrator, and in the case of Vhagar and Meraxes, Tyrion is definitely an unreliable narrator. Here's proof. In the books, Tyrion meets Shae in the cellars. She was standing inside the jaws of one of the skulls, and he thinks, Valerian, or is it Vhagar? One dragon skull looked much like another. So earlier, he thought Meraxes was bigger than Vhagar, and now he can't tell if the skull is Vhagar's or Valerian's. Granted, he's got this hot girl that he loves standing in front of him nude, and they're sneaking around. Her life is at stake because Tywin's a madman, Tyrion's position and his sanity are at stake. So to be fair, his brain was probably not firing on all cylinders, but still, Tyrion could not tell whether the skull was Valerian's or Vhagar's. And this time, he doesn't even mention Meraxes, loosely implying that Vhagar and Valerian are the closest in size. To back up this version, in a side story called The Princess and the Queen, we're told that Vhagar grew nigh as large as the Black Dread of old. But maybe Meraxes also grew to be almost the same size as Valerian. Maybe this comparison is usually between Vhagar and Valerian instead of Meraxes and Valerian, simply because Vhagar is the second most popular dragon. Alright, if you're not already frustrated and confused by all these inconsistencies, I got another one for you. Quentin Martell suggests that Vhagar and Meraxes were both huge, because they were, but that Valerian was noticeably larger. So yeah, it's a total mess. We're being told different things by different characters, or in the case of Tyrion, we're being told two different things by the same character. If I had to guess, I'd say that Tyrion's comments are just continuation errors. After all, The Princess and the Queen was written 17 years after A Game of Thrones. George might be modifying things to fit his newer vision of the history and lore. And luckily for him, he has intentionally written in unreliable narrators like Sansa. So he does not have to admit to any modification. He can simply say that Tyrion was wrong one of the 2 times he commented on their sizes. If any of you ever run into the man himself, tell him Kev's curious, who's bigger, Vhagar or Meraxes? I'm a Vhagar fanboy, so my money's on Vhagar. Alright, that's it for this one, folks. If you'd like to support the channel and see videos early, join Patreon for $1 a month, and check out the video description for links to videos on all the other known dragons. There are a bunch, so we broke down the videos into groups based off of size. Dragons the size of feisty Drogon when he was eating farmers' kids, Drogon from the Season 6 pit scene, Season 7 Valerian, Season 7 Drogon, and dragons bigger than the Season 7 Drogon. Because yeah, aside from Valerian, Meraxes, and Vhagar, there are a few other known dragons bigger than Season 7 Drogon, like my boy Vermithor. Go check him out, but give the little guy some love too.